World leaders are watching the presidential race here in the United States very closely. The results, well, they could have a significant impact on the direction of American foreign policy. No one knows that better than CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent and Face the Nation moderator, Margaret Brennan, who joins us now. Margaret, talk to me about how the world is watching this play out, and to the degree in Europe in particular, this is being viewed with some sort of either anxiety or trepidation.
It absolutely is major, and U.S. elections are always closely watched because for the past 70 years, the United States has been at the forefront of global leadership, and that is now in question. Will it remain so? Do Americans want it to be? There's this move towards isolationism that you see in parts of the Republican Party, and that causes anxiety, as you just mentioned, in particular in Europe, where there is an active war, as you well know, between Ukraine and Russia, which invaded it. And you have these questions now about America's commitment to being that arsenal of democracy. That is what that debate on Capitol Hill about the $60 billion or more to be spent on weaponry and investment in U.S.-produced weapons to go to Ukraine. Does America still want to be in that business? Because Europe can't produce those weapons at scale the way the United States of America can. So if America's not doing that, something that is now in question because the Republican-controlled House has not voted through this aid package, and notably Donald Trump has not endorsed that aid package, which is interesting, Major, because if you listen to a lot of these Trump rallies, he brings up things that have to do with foreign policy more often than you would think when he's out there on the campaign trail. He'll bring up Russia, he'll bring up Ukraine, he'll bring up these questions of America and the financial obligations it carries with us. But for national security-minded Republicans, this part of the Trump platform is very uncomfortable for them as well, because they want to be able to go and assure European partners in Asia as well, that the United States will be there if another major power tries to annex or invade a country, China and Taiwan. So this is an open worry within the Republican Party. And then within Democratic politics, there are these questions about America's moral leadership and human rights commitments that we're seeing debated within the Democratic Party right now as being focused on the war in Gaza.
I want to ask you about a visitor coming to Mar-a-Lago in the not-too-distant future, Viktor Orban, Hungary's prime minister. What's behind that visit, and how is it being regarded?
Well, Major, the Trump campaign hasn't talked about it too much, but the embassy of Hungary, Viktor Orban himself, has publicly come out and announced it. And in fact, he described it on stage as liking Donald Trump because he's a maverick and that he's not boring. The reason that the Hungarian prime minister's visit is raising eyebrows at all is because of who Viktor Orban is. Yes, Hungary's a member of NATO. Yes, it's a member of the European Union. But in order to get Ukraine aid passed in these last two rounds, literally world leaders had to conspire to get him to not be in the room when they voted. For the members of NATO to allow in Sweden and Finland, this was a hard sell to a man who physically and literally embraces Vladimir Putin. This is a man in his country who has said things about not wanting to mix races, who has cracked down on journalists, who has undermined an independent judiciary. So it is another uncomfortable point when you raise to Republican senators who are national security minded. What possible advice could he be providing this week in a private meeting to Donald Trump, the president of the United States, at a time when American commitment to Ukraine is in question? Why now? What's that signal? And what valuable strategy to the future is being offered by a right-wing nationalist? And quite frankly, Major, there aren't very clear answers that many of those Republicans can provide. They don't have them from Donald Trump. They don't know why, and it doesn't quite fit into the strategy of the more traditional Republican national security-minded establishment.
Valuable perspective as always. Margaret Brennan, thank you so very much.